Mirror, 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 looking in the mirror, devil on my shoulder, asking God to help me get my life right. Yeah. Gotta stay focused, call it social distance, can I get distracted?
It's your boy Docents83. Welcome to the Shit Too Real podcast show. Make sure you go subscribe, make sure you go comment, make sure you go like. Hey, today's guest, very special individual. When you talk about leadership and you talk about people to emulate, it's you look directly at this individual. He's a father, a son, a husband, a friend, and so much more to his family. Today I have Mayor Brown with me. So we're doing a round of applause. So, Mayor Brown, how you doing? We in the DC area.
I'm good, man.
Talk to him.
I'm good. First of all, good. What's up with you, man? I like this, man. I'm looking at the whole production. I've made it. You know, when I get on the podcast, I've made it. I'm here today because the village raised Tito Brown.
Man, that's amazing. Like, just put that in perspective. He's here because the village raised him. It takes a community, and you spoke on that as well.
It started at home. You know, my mother and my father both made sure that mediocrity was not an option for me. And one of the things my mother did early on is make sure I was exposed to a lot of things. And I tell the story about I had a chance to go to the World's Fair. Not many people can say that. So it's a fair that goes across the world, and you may not see it like once in your lifetime.
Oh, wow.
And it came to Knoxville, Tennessee, and we went to the World's Fair, and it was that exposure and that opportunity that I had that probably none of my friends had an opportunity to see. Nothing real, spectacular about it. It was just like the uniqueness that it goes across the world, and it may never come to your community or city but once or twice, or come to you, close to you once or twice. But mediocrity was not an option. My mother made sure that I was engaged and involved, and I think that's how, you really shape yourself, like wanting to really see what you want to do in life. It gives you an opportunity to be exposed to others as to see, how to do things and then how not to do things. So that was probably why you would see me, at Camp Fitch. When I go to Camp Fitch, I did multiple different camps. I didn't just go as a camper. I was a computer camp. I was a camp counselor. I did soccer camp. I just did everything just to see what it was like. And that's one of the things I encourage anyone. If you have something, like, I don't know if I can do that. You won't know until you try.
Make sure y'all hold on to that. You won't know until you try. So that's why you always got to try first so you can get that experience. Speaking of your mother, I call her mom too for many different reasons. Was she that individual? Because I remember you would go to school, we would walk to the bus stop, go to the Y, summer camp gone, come back, go to YSU for night school. Mm-hmm. Was that something to really because people really don't understand how hard that was. And to get to the point where she got to in her life, and you can see it all resonating and coming full circle.
Yeah. When I talk about you watch those that you grew up around. My mother, she made sure that she, got us off to school. Yeah. She went to work, and then she would come from work and go to night school to get her degree at Youngstown State. And that was just one of the pieces that you had a chance to say, well, she wasn't just talking it, she was walking it. Yeah, but I also talk about my dad, and I love to talk about him for all of his pieces that he didn't add to my life. You wouldn't believe that I became the man I am because my dad, who was in and out of prison most of my life, he always told me he wanted me to be much better than him. He says, son, I've done enough jail time for you. You don't have to go to jail. And that today, right now, people, say, well, if you do this, you're going to go to jail. I says, you got to worry about me going to jail. My dad did enough jail time for me. So between my mom and my dad, and they both kind of molded me in so many different ways, my streetwise understanding of, people and the hustle. And,
it's necessary.
I tell people, I don't mind you hustling, don't handle me. And I learned that from my dad being on the streets. So, and my mother, the work ethic, no matter, she never drove a day in her life, but she never missed a day of work because she couldn't get there. She would walk or find a bus, or she would get there. So those are the driving factors you see that helps me right now continue to drive.
Okay, sure. That's a lot of drive. It's a lot of driving, and you drove the car to get there, and I'm proud of you. Moving forward now, we talked about your growing up, your background. Mm-hmm. We know Tito got personality. Attended D-Ran, 1990 graduate, state champs. Yearbooks told it all. Going to the house trophies showed it all. How was that? How did people looked up to you?
Yeah. I didn't know that at the time. I did. I'll be honest with you. One of the things I did, I just did no matter what. I treated everybody the same.
Yeah.
No matter, if you were a star athlete or you were, one of the kids that came, were disabled. But I didn't realize that I was in the role. I just always like, okay, something needs to be done. Let's figure out how do we get it done. Football played a major role in my life. That gave me my discipline. That gave me my structure. People identified with me with football, but I didn't. Football was not just who I was. I really enjoyed the game. I enjoyed the camaraderie. I enjoyed the team building. I use a lot of that right now in my position, but I didn't say, when you walked up to me, I didn't tell you, I play middle linebacker and offensive guard. I played for D-Ran,
right.
But that shaped some of the work ethic that I have now.
It always stays with you. If you let it leave you, you probably going backwards.
It's no sense in you have it and don't use it. So we use it every chance we get opportunities. Sometimes we'll tell an old football story, but also we'll talk about some team building opportunities that we have as well.
Okay, great. High school, 17, 18 years old. Teenage father. How, you talked about a village when you came up.
Yeah.
Did the same thing apply then?
Oh, no doubt. One of the things, I love telling, I tell my story so someone else who may be going through it may understand. I was a teenage father at the age of 17, and I tell anybody that I became a real adult at that time. It wasn't, it wasn't fake. You had to really be. I'm the man I am today because I started being a father early on, and my mother had that stern talk with me. The same lady that loved me. I for about 2 weeks, man, she was still cooking, but the food was in the. She would like cook and then put it in the refrigerator. I'm like, hey,
what's going on?
What about my meal? You don't fix my plate no more?
Right.
No, it's time to grow up. It really gave me a great sense of how to be a man, how to be a father. But then I start taking all those nuggets that I received from my father and my mother, or the nuggets that I didn't get from my father, that I always had okay, when I'm a father, I want to do this, this, and this. Right. That I wanted my dad to do, and it never happened. So he taught me a lot, but he taught me how to be a better father, just in his lack of being a father. So it was tough, it was difficult, but there again, the village helped, nurture and raise me between my mother, my grandmother, my uncles, my aunts. They all made sure that if I needed some help, we got it. But right now we're able to get through it because of family.
Family is important. They say, what is it? Blood don't make you family.
No.
But in our family, I believe that's true because we have a tight knit family. We communicate on a daily. We show up. We come back in town if we fall away from town, and we try to maintain that communication. Life after high school. You talk the fellas. Let me talk about the fellas real quick. I know some of the fellas, but what did the fellas like? How did that name even started branding itself, and what does that group mean to you?
Yeah. It kind of just kind of morphed on its own. It was a group of, and we, I use the word eclectic because we're all so different. Probably started you got to realize when I grew up, I had two other cousins their same age, the Tiger and Turl.
One second, Tiger told me, cause I do my research. He said people knew y'all was cousins young, but then when y'all got to high school, people didn't know y'all was cousins.
Nah, they just thought we was best friends. Like, man, y'all just been friends. and didn't realize that Tiger was born in August, I was born in October, Turl was born in February. And when we all grew up, so their family again, my mother, their mother and father, they always made sure we spent a lot of time together. So family events, gatherings, it was all three. Tito, Tiger, and Turl, the 3 T's. You didn't see anything without that. So we morphed into junior high and ran into some other friends like Mozzie.
Yeah.
Driscoll was in elementary with us.
Driscoll.
We picked up Driscoll. We picked up Hollis. We picked up We picked up Murray.
Yeah.
When then kind of the JPs and the Mikes and the Vinnies. Yeah. So we got the junior high. It was kind of the same personality, the same, we all the same personality, but we all kind of had a different, we explored different. There were some things that I just wasn't going to do that Vin was like, I try that. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. So when we got to high school, we really had this bond, and the fellas came out of because they would always see us like, where the other fellas at? And somebody said, y'all the fellas, huh? Yeah, we're the fellas. And that kind of morphed into that's who we became, the fellas. And it was just nothing big, nothing fancy, just the fellas.
The fellas. Scholarships, football, pulling scholarships back, moving back home, focusing on academics. What was that portion like? Because, that's headed into your career almost. Yeah. How was that transition when you went to Edinboro?
Yeah. You look at things in the past, you don't realize things happen for a reason. I looked at, for me, like I mentioned earlier, football wasn't the only thing I had going for me. I had academics. I remember the college recruiting piece was big, and I still hear that to this day, recruiters come in and promise the kids the world, as long as you come in, and they have a quota to get. You've been a recruiter before.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I got recruited to go to Edinboro University. I'm going to play football. Just before I started camp, I got a letter. I was on full ride. Everything was going to be taken care of. Then I got a letter that says, "Hey, we're going to reduce some of your athletics because you have academics." And be honest with you, all I wanted out of football, anything, I got everything I thought I wanted. I just wanted a degree. I just wanted to use football to get to a degree. So they pulled back on my scholarship. I'm like, and then I called, and my mother called, and we started talking. They said, well, maybe you'll do a little work study. I said, well, that guy sat on my couch with my mother. He never said anything about work study. I'm going to be this athlete, on campus. I'm going to play, middle linebacker. That's what I wanted to do. Long story short, I get to camp. I start talking to the coaches, and they're like, well, that happens sometime. I'm like, why am I even here then? I says, I could have stayed at home for academics and didn't have to worry about getting up at dark 30, stayed a couple sessions in football. And I went to the coach. I said, look, either I'm not going to have to work on the side. I said, my mother can't afford me to have to work. And that's why I went to school, so she wouldn't be burdened with that financial issue.
Right.
He said, well, you're going to have to make a decision. I called my mother and I said, listen, here's what I'm thinking. And I says, can you check to see when Youngstown State has, when's the last day to apply to Youngstown State? And it was like a week and a half before I called her. I said, well, Mom, I'm coming home and just go to school. I'm not going to be playing this game with them. And I had just got to that point. All I wanted was a degree. Somebody just give me a degree. I had academics, came home, registered in the Youngstown State. I remember specifically the coach that recruited me. He said, you're going to regret this the rest of your life.
Wow.
I can tell you today, I've never regretted leaving there. Not a day, not a moment when I left there. Because his focus was
that motivation for you?
Absolutely. His job was to get me on the field. My job was to get a degree. His wasn't bigger than mine. His focus was not bigger than mine. All I wanted a degree. If he would have said, we're going to work it out, we're going to get you a degree, you're not going to have to do a work study, you're not going to do any of that.
It would have been totally different.
It would have been fine. No, he put I want you on the field, hook or crook.
Ain't gonna work like that. So
we went on to get our undergrad. And ironically enough, Youngstown State at the time, they had won like 3 national championships while I'm a student there. Here I am, probably one of the top middle linebackers. I'm just going as a student because I didn't get recruited by Youngstown State.
And you was in the city.
I was right there in the city, but there again, I didn't go up to tell them, you guys missed out, let me play football. How do I get out of here and get a degree? So I got a bachelor's and a master's degree from Youngstown State University.
What's your bachelor's in? My
bachelor's in criminal justice with a minor in social work, and my master's is in clinical counseling with an emphasis on family and group. So this right here, I love telling that story because, most people don't know that. Everybody has something they're going through or they went through. And I like to share that with young athletes. Don't get caught up. They always look at, I want to go to the pros. You know how many athletes are coming out, to want to go to the pros and how many seats are available during that time? Not a lot. So When you start looking at what your career is going to look like, try to figure out what your end goal is. And my end goal to get a degree, and we achieved that.
Once you got your degree, I'm not sure. I know city council, what where did you start off once you had like as an intern? How did you? Can you tell us a story from the point you got your degree or the work you started doing to how you even start transitioning through different doors of opportunity?
Yeah, well, well, when I got to university, I started already. I started working. I was remember I'm still a father, so I'm there. Good. So I always had a job, and I went to career services first. I had some great jobs when I was at the university. All you had to do was tell them you were from Youngstown State University, and they were like, "You're hired." Worked all through college. Did that for a while. One of my first jobs, and my goal when I went into criminal justice, I was going to go into rehab, probation, or parole. That was going to be my go-to. I went to work for a place called Community Corrections. One of my professors, Dr. Rick Billick, rest in peace, Doc. We were in a class. I had him for a couple classes. Like, Doc, when are you going to hire me? I need a job at your place. He's like, you don't want to work there. I says, I keep asking you. I do want to work there. I got a chance to work there. I was actually his probation officer on electronic monitoring.
Ankle monitors.
Ankle monitoring. Yeah, it was eye-opening experience. They were just coming out, and I ran that program for about a year and a half. The problem was they weren't paying enough, and once I got my degree, I'm like, Doc, I'm gonna need a little more cash, or I'm gonna have to start looking.
Right.
And he says, well, you need to do what you need to do because this is probably what all we're gonna pay you. I started looking around, and I found actually a job. It was a job as a caseworker for Mahoney County Children's Service. And I'd be honest with you, I didn't have it on my radar. I was just kind of looking, but the pay is what kind of got in my eye. I'm like, oh, okay, what a degree. Got there in '95. I worked there. Probably one of it was a game changer for me.
Yeah.
Because as a social worker, I got a chance to go into. I did ongoing case management, and that's where the rubber meets the road. You have a family, you have a case manager, you manage families.
So it's a whole.
Oh yeah,
that's your baby.
This is your case. You know cases from let's say if it's the Brown family, you're working the Brown family from start to finish, and you may have 3 kids when you take on the case. They may have 6 kids if you decide to close it, because they may have kids during that time, and every time there's a different dynamic. So I learned a lot. Probably one of the greatest things I had the opportunity to do. I met my wife there. First day on the job, she all up in my business, man.
I remember.
Yeah, we worked together.
Fair.
Yeah,
the car broke down.
Yeah.
Tito say, what? I think it was raining, and it wasn't. My mom, ain't no room in here, and we like, no, we're gonna make it fit. That's how I knew he liked you. Everything was packed with 4 people in the back. Yeah. We figured it out. Yeah. So. Yeah. And that's beautiful.
Yeah, I forgot about the car breaking down.
Yeah, I remember that.
So we went on to children's service. I stayed there for about 8 years, and I decided I got in a couple opportunities to do some management, some temporary management positions, and I really liked that leadership. It went 5 years and didn't even think about getting another job. I loved it so much, and it got to a point. It was like I thought I was going to stay there all my life.
Yeah.
And I got in a couple opportunities to be in a couple management positions, and they said, well, you got to go back to your, line work. And nothing that was wrong with the line work, but I had an exposure and I had an opportunity to say I had greater potential to do something else, which was a motivation for me to go back and get my master's degree, because they said, well, you want to be in supervision, you have to have your master's degree. I started my master's degree, but in between that time, another job was kind of put in front of me at the university, and it was a position for a community organizer. Okay. I had no idea. And that was 2002. Nobody knew anything about a community organizer in 2002. Then our president made it famous, because they found out what he was. But it was a social worker my job was really to bring people to the table. So I went to the Youngstown State University, worked in urban and regional studies department for a great number of years. When I left there, I had an opportunity to really expand my exposure. I went to work for the Mahoney County Treasurer's Office, and the treasurer is the bank for the county. Okay. So essentially, my job was to work at the county bank, and it was connected politically. The boss was an elected official. It gave me a lot of exposure at that time. So during my time there, I ran for the school board. I was a member of the Youngstown City School Board, which my original intention had no intention on getting on the school board. But you remember, I'm a father. I got a kid now in the system. And one of my teachers came to me and said, "You make a great school board member." I said, "No, I won't." Asked me a couple times. I actually went ahead and did it. We ran. I was 13 of us in the race. We came in number one, and the closest person to us was like 500 votes behind us.
Oh, wow.
And we really worked out really hard. So we finished up there. We went on. One of my greatest mentors, Dickie Atkinson, he came to me and said, "Listen, I'm termed out." I mean, he couldn't run again as a city councilman. He said, "You need now, you took care of the schools.
The school board,
you need to take care of your neighborhood."
Elevating.
So I went on, ran for city council, went on to be city council, and then I became the president of council.
What does city council do?
So that's a legislative body of the city. You know, some people call them aldermen's city council. So that's the legislative branch. There's how it works. There's the mayor's executive, and the city council is the legislative branch. The mayor makes recommendations or asks city council for monies.
Okay.
They're their appropriating body. Their job is to say, we got $176,000. We need to figure out where it's going. The mayor says, I know where it should be going because we're providing service and delivery, and you go to council and ask for those funds. So the benefit for me being in this seat right now, I've been on the legislative side. Now I'm on the executive side. But I went on to be president of city council. This is a story, be a critical one for you, is that the former mayor, Mayor Jay Williams, he was picked by the President Obama to come and work for him in the White House. And our charter rules say the president of council becomes the mayor. Our president of council became the mayor. Then for me, I was the president pro tem for council. I became the president of council. So I've been on the school board. I've been in city council. I've been a president of council. And now I serve as the 51st mayor of the city of Youngstown.
Hey, that needs a clap in its own. Like, it's amazing. It's not a small task, and it shouldn't be taken lightly. It comes with a lot of hard work, dedication, discipline, and purpose. How was it building up a team when the first time you ran? Can you share that experience?
You know, ironically enough, from school board, we had Lynette and I had already kind of established a base. One of the things I recommend to anybody who wants to run for elected office is to volunteer and learn what that office is about first.
Okay.
So we had an opportunity to meet people, work with different campaigns to see how they operate behind the scenes, to see how they network behind the scenes. But putting a campaign together is not easy. Ironically enough, people will come to your campaign for several reasons.
Sabotage.
Yeah, they want to sabotage it. They just want to be nosy.
Want to get close to you.
They want something out of position, and then there's some that just want you to win. And you kind of you can sift those out. You can just about tell those who they don't have an agenda. They don't want anything. Don't even ask them to take anything. They just want you to win. So putting together a team, we've been very blessed and fortunate for people to come in our life, and because my motto is you just treat people like you want to be treated. Treat everybody the same. Our first campaign for running for mayor, and I shared the story yesterday on a media platform that I lost by 142 votes. We were outspent by three to one. And I said, money doesn't make you, win an election. It helps. It sure does help when you got that cash. But we lost by 142 votes. And I put a pin in that point that every vote counts. You have to get out and vote. And there's no off season on voting. But we got to a point we decided once we lost that race, I was done with the politics.
And that was my next question. Why did you say you was done, and what made you keep going?
You would never believe this. I ran into somebody and says, "We're ready for the next time we go for the next race." I said,
that marketing work.
She said
that putting out there work.
It was a citizen. Like she said, we're getting ready for the run for mayor again, right? I'm like, no. Oh yeah, you're running again. I said, no, I'm not. She said, oh yeah, it's time for you to run. We need you. And I'm like, oh, I once you get that, you lose, and I like I told you, I'm a competitor.
Right.
Every Friday or Saturday or Sunday, you're competitive. Somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose, and you just got to kind of dust yourself off, and you got 24 hours to decide how long I'm gonna mope or keep going. And it stung. It really stung for a while. You want to lose big or you want to lose small. I don't want to lose it all. So either way, it still feels the same. She really pushed me and I start thinking and I start talking to everybody else. So I'm believing I'm gonna tell everybody else. I think I'm gonna run for mayor again. They were like, "Man, you stupid, you crazy."
So you spoke that to people, and that was their response.
I'm thinking to myself,
that
I'm gonna say, Rashad, I'm gonna run for mayor again.
And then the person was like,
and when I started kind of floating that out there, they were like, "When? Yeah. Let's go, let's get it." And it just the momentum, the word started getting around. Brown's gonna run again. And I have the 2 articles of our second race, and the first one is the Tito triumphs, and then is a Tito's victory or something. Across the front page. The first one was Lynette and I, and the second was with me and Quentin. And it was just all about, that's the refuge, that's the piece that really drove me. But it was just somebody who spoke that to me, that you'd run it again. I probably would have still been at the county treasurer's office, and I love what I was doing. What I was doing. And I tried, but it was still there, and the citizens were behind me. So here I am. I just finished my first year. I'm starting my second year, my second term as the 51st mayor of the city of Youngstown.
That's amazing. What are some of your biggest challenges? I come from the city. I know, we had conversations previously. We had conversations whenever we together, and what's your outlook or what you want to, build the city into? What are some of your biggest challenges faced?
People.
Yeah.
Anytime you deal with people, you got people personality. But some of the heartline issues is that you got hunger. You got a poverty issue that's been poverty's been around for some time, but it rises up in different shapes, forms, and fashions. You got hunger. You got homeless, but you also really the biggest epidemic right now is housing. Individuals on both West Coast and East Coast they're overpopulated, and then you have old housing stock like Midwest cities like a legacy city like the city of Youngstown. We have old housing stock, so it's the lead based paint, lead lines, so quality of life. But also you have predators. You have predators who are out there now. You got these corporations who are buying rental properties, and they're doing 2 things. They're either flipping them or jacking the rents up so high that people are spending 85% of their income to live in a home. And that's just a home. It's not even a quality home. So those are some of the challenges that we face in the city of Youngstown. I think one of the things that we are most satisfied when pride ourselves on is that when I took over this office, there was no pride. There was no respect. There was no respect for the office, and I heard you open up with your tagline. My tagline is, Mayor, that I wouldn't cave to money, power, and politics. And I've been real straight on that. And it's not popular. When you get in the outside, I always say the outside influencers, when they come in, they all got an agenda. And sometimes you're on their agenda to better their issue. And a lot of times, if you're not coming in to help the citizens of Youngstown, if you don't want to benefit the citizens of Youngstown, you want to impact the citizens of Youngstown, I don't want to do business with you. And I live by that. So we've been working through that, as mayor of the city of Youngstown. But one of the things that people always ask, they'll ask the question, how is it like being mayor? I've never had a Groundhog Day. if anybody remember the movie Groundhog Day, the day turns over and it's the same. I've tried to duplicate my day. I've tried. I just started my 6th year as mayor of Youngstown. I've never had the day the same. Some days I'm on a plane. I'm getting up at 3:30. I'm on a plane to get to Washington D.C. by 7. I'm on a plane. By 9:15, I'm in the halls of Congress. By 12:30, I'm on the Senate floor. By 4:30 or 5, I'm driving back to the city of Youngstown, coming from Fishport Airport. I'm on a flight to China with 4 other mayors that I don't know, but we're going over to build relationships. So no day's the same. And what drives me more than anything is when someone calls the office and say, thank you for helping me, or thank this person in your department for helping me, because at the end of the day, we work for the citizens. I get a job interview every day.
Yeah.
And I get an evaluation every 4 years. So I get a job interview. You know, when you call my office, when I'm working in DC, you know, that's my job interview. They want to make sure that they hired the right person for the job. And at the end of the day, if we can make sure that on my every 4 year evaluation, that we're better today than we were yesterday, we're winning.
Absolutely. Elevating. You spoke about global. You're not in this on your own. Of course, you got your support group from your family. How does interacting and networking with other mayors around the globe that has the same purpose on you, how is that beneficial?
It's the best. It's the best opportunity. You know, I always make sure that you don't know everything. Always be willing to learn, and just being an athlete, I'm coachable. For me, I come and get engaged with other mayors and realize that I can't be the first person with this issue. Somebody's probably had to solve this. If I am the first person, find out for what other mayors are doing. Mayors are a little different than any other elected official because we all have the same issues. It's just a matter of what scale. You know, if I look, you know, at the state level, if I look at Columbus, when I talk to the mayor of Columbus, he has the same issues that I'm dealing with, but at a bigger level. You know, if I talk to the mayor of Detroit, same issues, larger level. You know, bigger the population, the issues are still the same. You know, you want safety, you want housing, you want economics. You know, you want growth growth and potential for your family. So those pieces remain the same. But also for me, and as I come to this conference and get a chance to really expose and give a spotlight of what the city of Youngstown's about. You know, I say, you know, we invented grit. And we really, you know, it'll be 50 years in 2027 when we lost our steel mills. And that was the industry that fed our community. Now we're doing something different. You know, we've got advanced manufacturing, we have 3D. Now we're looking at electric vehicles and the EV technology that's coming. But we also have to be ready. And my job is to figure out, how do I get the workforce ready? So when those businesses say, I want to relocate somewhere, I say, I got the workforce, they're ready to go, and I have a site for you to build on.
That's a great conversation because I didn't know it went like that.
Yeah.
I thought they, you know, but it makes sense. Y'all working together. I thought they come and just, like you said, people come and buy stuff up, but this is for a different purpose: economics, work, and improving the whole city. So it's going to take everybody, you know, collective thoughts to even make it happen.
Yeah, and ironically enough, you know, if you look at the new Intel factory in Columbus, you know, that's going to spur growth for us, you know, 2 hours away, because you've got supply chains. You know, when Lordstown closed down, if anybody knows about Lordstown, when they closed down, most of the workers at GM got a chance to relocate somewhere else. Correct. The ones who suffered more were the supply chain. Those individuals that were supplying the parts to the cars, the seats to the cars, those little pieces that you don't see. You know, all the pieces came into the plant for them to put the car together, but there were suppliers. When GM shut down, those suppliers had nobody else to supply to.
Inside the city, or just all around?
Just all around. So if you look at anything that's being built, always look at the supply chain. That's why it's critical for you to have opportunity for those who need to be involved, get involved, definitely with minority MBE, WBEs to get involved and be able to purchase. So we focus on making sure that as Intel is going on in Columbus, how can we affect and get some supply chain from Youngstown? Because it's not even a half a day's drive. It's a couple hour drive, and we can supply them with suppliers. They can relocate in our area.
Suppliers, if y'all out there, I hope y'all listening. For the workers out there, the mayor's working very hard to bring jobs. Got to be willing to work. Biggest accomplishments. What are your biggest accomplishments, not just as mayor, but in life?
Yeah. One of my greatest assets right now is the oldest job I've ever had. I've been a father. One of the biggest things the best thing I've ever did was become a husband. I look at that and you know, I break my life down in my faith, my family, and my friends. And I can probably tell you the friends I have now, I've had them since, you know, it was probably 4 or 5 presidents ago. I've not changed, because true friends are hard to find.
Absolutely.
But I always say my faith. You know, one of the things that gave me, you know, when I talked about the village, I didn't really get into how, you know, I really got engaged. My grandmother, of all the grandkids, she really made sure that I went to church with her. And I think that's one of my foundations for me is the faith. But also there were individuals, Reverend London and his wife used to stop by and pick me up for church and take me with them as well. And then I had an uncle, B.T. Brown. He was a pastor in Niles, Ohio, and I would ride in his deuce and a quarter. I would go to church with him, and I had an experience of going into the pastor's study as a young person because this is my uncle's church, and I would ride to church with him. He went into the pastor's door, and I walked right in with him. I'm in the pastor's study, so I was exposed to that early on. But there again, that was the village that made sure that my faith was there. And I always say family because you always got to have somewhere you come back to. People say don't get too big headed as being the mayor. I say as long as I'm coming home and I'll call home and say you won't believe who I met. I talked to the president. Or I've been this. It's just make sure you get a loaf of bread and a gallon of milk on your way home.
Right.
Your family and your friends will always keep you humble. But I try to make sure that I never change. I still connect with my friends from childhood. If I go into the city and I know they live there, I'm there. Because at the end of the day, when I walk away from not being the mayor, I still want my family and my friends to think of me the same. That, this is just a job. This is not who I am.
If you can give the people of Youngstown, the people around the world, the youth, the middle age to even adults, what would be your message to those individuals to inspire them?
I really, you've got to believe that anything's possible. All things possible with God. I truly believe that if you put your heart and your mind to something, you can do anything. And that's what I try to tell my kids all the time. When we're talking, the twins are at a point where they're thinking about where they're going to go to school, where they're going to go to college. And we kind of bounce around the different ideas of what college or what career you want. I took several career exams, and you can see from my degrees, I didn't go into becoming a clinical counselor, but I use that every day. So if you put your head and your heart to something, you can do anything in life, and never let anybody define who you are. You define yourself.
Absolutely. And with that being said, it's been a pleasure. You define you. Success is dependent on you as an individual. Make sure you're using your resources out there around you. If everybody's going in one direction and we all have our own thing going on, you're not using that individual, you're using your resources, and they should lean on you as well. Because big companies crumble, big companies crumble, small companies pop up. So as we see each other here in this small entity for the next 10 years, we keep growing. It's like water and plant. You have to grow as long as you stay consistent with it and you keep delivering a purpose. It's been a pleasure having my cousin, my brother, Mayor Brown, Tito Brown, Jamel, on the Shit Too Real podcast. Make sure you go subscribe, like we talked about, comment, like, share. Visit the website, www.2realllc.com. You got a website where people can go learn about the city of Youngstown.
Cityofyoungstown.org.
Cityofyoungstown.org. And we appreciate you. Subscribe, comment, like. Merch is on the website. We appreciate everything that you pledge to us.